Ladies and gentlemen, one of the hardest truths we all have to face is this. People will treat you the way you allow them to treat you. That's not just some throwaway line, it's a psychological reality. Every interaction you have with someone is a lesson you're giving them on how to engage with you. And whether you realize it or not, every time you tolerate disrespect, every time you downplay your feelings or laugh off a comment that stung, you're training them. You're signaling, this is okay, you can keep doing that. Now I get it. We avoid confrontation because it feels easier in the moment. We don't want to come across as overly sensitive or dramatic. We tell ourselves it's not worth making a scene. Or maybe they didn't mean it that way. But the real cost of that silence isn't just the words left unsaid. It's your self-respect quietly eroding over time. Because here's the thing, when you keep the peace externally by avoiding discomfort, you often start a war within yourself. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance. It's what happens when your internal beliefs, your worth, your boundaries, don't match your external behavior, and that tension it builds, it wears you down. Eventually, you either lash out in a way that seems disproportionate, or you shut down completely. And both reactions reinforce the wrong message to the people around you, that they can continue crossing lines without consequence. But when you flip the script, when you begin drawing a clear line in the sand, even in subtle ways, you start teaching a different lesson. Maybe that means saying, hey, I didn't find that funny, or I'm not okay with that tone. Small, consistent cues create a new expectation. And make no mistake, people notice. They may not like it at first, especially if they were benefiting from your silence. But in time, they learn that you value yourself enough not to bend just to keep things easy. Philosophically speaking, this comes down to something deeper than social etiquette. It's about identity. Are you living as someone who values their dignity, or as someone who constantly sacrifices it to make others comfortable? Respect isn't something you go out and demand from people. It's something you cultivate internally and then protect through action. When your behavior aligns with your self-worth, people have no choice but to recalibrate how they show up in your life. And let me be real, this won't feel easy at first. Setting a boundary might make your voice shake. Saying no might come with guilt, but the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. You're not just shifting your external relationships. You're transforming your internal narrative. You're telling yourself, I matter, my peace matters, and I will not trade either for temporary acceptance. Most people think power comes from speaking up, from having the last word, from asserting dominance in the loudest way possible. But that's a lie we've been sold by ego. Real power, the kind that makes people stop and rethink how they treat you, comes from restraint. It comes from silence, not the kind of silence rooted in fear or passivity, but the kind that's backed by awareness, control, and intentionality. Think about it. The people who trigger you, the ones who say something disrespectful just to get a rise out of you, they're not just testing your boundaries, they're testing your center. They want to know if they can disrupt your emotional state. And if you react immediately, if you snap back, defend yourself impulsively, or try to explain your worth, you've already given them what they wanted, your energy. Now, I'm not saying you should let things slide. What I am saying is this. Your silence can speak louder than your defense. When you choose not to react, you're not giving in. You're taking back control. That's what psychological mastery looks like. You're telling the world, you don't get to dictate my state of mind. I respond when I choose on my terms. That kind of calm presence confuses people who are used to pulling other strings. They don't know what to do with someone who doesn't flinch. In neuroscience, there's a concept called the amygdala hijack. When someone disrespects you or challenges you, your brain sends you into fight or flight mode. It floods you with adrenaline and you want to react. But here's the problem. When you react from that place, you're not in control. You're operating from survival, not strategy. Silence short circuits that pattern. It buys you time to process. It gives you space to respond from clarity, not chaos. Philosophically, silence is a form of discipline. It's a refusal to waste your words on people who aren't ready to understand them. It's choosing not to perform your pain just so someone else can feel justified in their behavior. It's strength, wrapped in stillness, and trust me, people notice. When you don't engage in the drama, when you hold your ground without needing to prove yourself, you shift the power dynamic. You're no longer on the defensive, you're on purpose. This doesn't mean you never speak up. It means you learn to pause, to observe, to weigh your energy. You stop handing out emotional reactions like candy to anyone who pokes at your wounds. You become someone others think twice about crossing. Not because you're aggressive, but because you're grounded. Confidence. That word gets thrown around a lot, but let's be honest, most people don't understand what it actually means. We confuse confidence with being loud, flashy, assertive. But real confidence, the kind that makes people respect you before you even say a word, has nothing to do with volume. It's not about how you look or what you own. It's about presence. It's an internal certainty that says, I know who I am, and I'm not seeking your permission to be that. Here's the truth. People treat you based on the signals you send, and those signals come from your energy, not your words. If you walk into a room hoping people will like you, hoping they'll accept you, guess what? They can feel that neediness. It's subtle, but it's powerful. The human brain is wired to detect weakness and uncertainty. It's evolutionary. So when your sense of self is dependent on how other people respond to you, you've already lost the game. You've handed them remote control to your worth, but when your validation comes from within, when you wake up in the morning already grounded in who you are, you start to move differently. You don't chase approval because you're not starving for it. You don't over-explain because you're not insecure about decisions. That energy of calm self-certainty, it speaks volumes, and people feel it. They may not consciously understand why they're drawn to you, or why they don't dare cross you, but they instinctively respect the boundary your confidence creates. Psychologically, this ties into the concept of self-efficacy, your belief in your ability to influence outcomes. When you believe in yourself truly and consistently, your body reflects that belief. The way you stand, speak, make eye contact. It all shifts, and it's not about faking it. It's about owning it. You build this confidence by keeping promises to yourself, by doing hard things, by proving to yourself that you can handle life without falling apart. Philosophically, confidence is a moral stance. It's choosing to believe that your existence, your ideas, your values have inherent worth, that you don't need to justify your presence in any room. When you operate from that place, disrespect can't latch onto you. It slides right off, not because people are nicer, but because you've become impermeable to their projections. Their opinions no longer hold weight in your inner world. Let's be clear, building this level of confidence isn't about arrogance, it's about alignment. It's about showing up in your life with integrity, knowing that you're not pretending to be someone else. You're just being you, fully and without apology, and that version of you, that's the one the world can't ignore. Let's talk about something most people avoid, letting go of the people who benefit from your self-doubt. It sounds harsh, doesn't it? But if you want to stop being disrespected, if you truly want to stand in your worth, you have to face this. Not everyone in your life is rooting for your strength. In fact, some people are only close to you because your insecurity makes them feel secure. There are individuals, friends, family, even partners, who subtly discourage your growth, not with obvious insults, but with small comments that chip away at your confidence. You've changed. Don't get too full of yourself. Are you sure you can handle that? It's disguised as concern or humor, but it's actually a control mechanism. Because when you grow, you become unpredictable, you become powerful, and for people who are used to holding a psychological edge over you, that's threatening. Psychologically, this is a form of emotional codependency. It's a pattern where someone's sense of control relies on your dependency. As long as you're doubting yourself, they feel needed. As long as you're apologizing for your dreams, they feel superior. But the moment you stop shrinking, when you start setting boundaries, speaking your truth, standing tall, they either evolve with you or start resisting you. And this is where most people struggle, because we confuse loyalty with tolerance. We stay in relationships that drain us because we don't want to be selfish or disloyal. But loyalty to someone else should never come at the cost of betrayal to yourself. That's not love. That's self-abandonment. And every time you suppress your growth to keep someone else comfortable, you reinforce the idea that their comfort is more important than your evolution. Philosophically, this is about reclaiming authorship of your identity. Are you living a life designed by your values, or are you curating your behavior to avoid rocking someone else's fragile ego? It's not your job to carry the emotional weight of someone who refuses to grow with you. And it's not your responsibility to stay small just so someone else doesn't feel left behind. Now, I'm not saying you need to cut everyone off at the first sign of discomfort, but I am saying you need to notice the patterns: who lifts you up, who drains you, who respects your boundaries, who makes you question your own worth every time you try to level up. That's data. And once you have that data, you have a decision to make. Growth is painful, yes, but staying stuck in spaces that belittle your potential is far more damaging in the long run. So here's the bottom line: you don't owe access to people who are allergic to your confidence. Respect begins with you choosing yourself, even if it means losing people who never truly saw you to begin with. Let them go. Create space for those who celebrate your strength, not those who fear it. Let's be honest. Most people don't lack boundaries, they just don't enforce them. And that's where the real problem starts. It's not enough to know what your limits are. You have to stand behind them, without apologizing, without explaining, and without shrinking just to make others feel more comfortable. Look, people will always test your limits. It's human nature. Whether they do it consciously or not, they want to know, how far can I go? How much can I take before they push back? And if every time they cross a line you soften your tone, offer an excuse, or second guess yourself, you're teaching them that your boundaries are flexible, that your no is actually a maybe, and that your values are up for negotiation. But here's the truth: a boundary is not a debate. It's a decision. It's a statement of self-respect. And when you make that decision and back it up with consistency, people learn fast. They either adapt or they exit. Either way, the message is clear. You will not disrespect me and expect access to my time, my energy, or my peace. The psychological root of this goes deeper. Most people fear setting boundaries because they're wired for acceptance. We are social creatures. Our brains are built to seek connection, and we associate boundary setting with rejection. But the irony is, the more you compromise yourself for connection, the more disconnected you become from yourself. You start betraying your own values just to be liked, and that slowly dismantles your self-worth. Here's the thing: every time you draw a line and hold it, you're telling yourself, I matter. My needs are valid. I am worth protecting. That builds inner strength, that builds clarity, and that clarity changes everything. Your posture, your voice, your decisions. People can sense when you're not playing games with your boundaries. It creates a kind of unspoken respect, not out of fear, but out of recognition. This person knows who they are. I better show up accordingly. Philosophically, this is about reclaiming your sovereignty. You're not here to manage how other people feel about your standards. You're here to live in alignment with your values. You don't need to make others understand your boundary for it to be valid. The purpose of a boundary is not to convince someone else. It's to protect your inner world, your energy, your peace. Will people push back? Absolutely. Some will guilt you. Some will call you selfish. Others will try to manipulate the boundary into disappearing. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. Growth isn't comfortable for you or for them, but staying small to keep the peace, that's not growth. That's surrender.